Welcome to Workplace Woes, the podcast for the weary, overworked employee seeking solutions. Whether you're leading a team or barely surviving one, this is your space for real talk, not corporate fluff. We took a brief pause over the last few weeks, not because the podcast isn't a priority, but because I've been deep in work, supporting clients and leading different initiatives in my 9 to 5. At the same time, I made space for my co host to wrap up something major. Because today I'm thrilled to introduce someone who just completed her doctorate in social work. Yes, doctorate. She's passionate about equity, advocacy, and changing workplace culture from the inside out. Please help me welcome the incredible Dr. G to the show, my new co-host here at Workplace Woes. Gabrielle, how does it feel stepping into this new chapter fresh off that major milestone?
Thank you, Amber. Thank you for that introduction. It's still surreal, honestly. I'm still wrapping my mind around the fact that I'm done. I'm excited to utilize my skills and experiences and new privilege to positively impact workplaces and communities, providing equity and information on mental health, any tips and things like that in a positive way so that we can alleviate some of these workplace woes.
Thank you for joining me. I know that we're going to do great things together. So excited for you. I know you've been working hard. You worked very hard, especially the last few weeks of obtaining your doctorate degree. So today we're diving into burnout, Gabrielle, turnover and leadership fatigue. So many employees are stretched thin, under supported, and stuck in cycles of short staffing. Leaders are trying to hold it all together. Mentors are drained, and no one's saying the quiet part out loud. We're exhausted. So let's get into it. I'm going to ask one of the first questions. And so the first question I'm going to ask is, what's the clearest sign of burnout across the team that leaders tend to miss or ignore?
Sure. So burnout isn't just about being tired, right? It's about losing purpose, losing autonomy, losing hope. It's constantly short-staffed environments. People start operating in survival mode. One of the clearest signs of burnouts that leaders often miss is that emotional withdrawal. It's not as visible as missed deadlines or declining performance, but it shows up in subtle ways. People stop contributing their ideals. There's less laughter around the office. There's less casual conversation. And there's just a general sense of disengagement all around. It's easy to write it off as people just being busy or their heads are down. But in reality, it can be a red flag that the team is emotionally depleted. Leaders who are focused on productivity metrics might miss that energy and creativity, the culture that's slowly being drained out of the room. And that's the first sign that things are going downhill and fast.
I agree with you, and I've experienced that as a leader, and I agree that you can definitely tell when a team is just over it because their behavior changes. The team members that used to engage in morning communications are no longer saying good morning. Team members that maybe were willing to work late or maybe added a lot of value to the team, they're no longer doing that. So I definitely agree with you. And so it kind of takes me into the next question. Do you think leaders should admit when they feel burned out as well? And what impact can that vulnerability have on the team? Because as you mentioned, you can tell when your team is feeling different because the culture shifts. The upbeat person becomes the downbeat person, and so how can a leader show vulnerability where they still can also motivate the team member as well? And so again, do you feel like showing that type of vulnerability? Hey, I'm tired too. Do you think that is a good thing to do or not?
Absolutely. When it's done authentically, it can absolutely be a positive for the whole environment. Admitting burnout paired with a plan for support or for boundaries models that transparency and gives others permission to be honest too about their own burnout. Vulnerability without dumping that on others builds that trust and that security. People don't expect perfection from their leaders, but they do expect humanity. And this signals psychological safety. that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. We are not okay all the time. It humanizes leadership, encourages honest conversations. It opens the door for support structures to emerge within those teams. Um, but it just shouldn't be an emotional dumping ground, being vulnerable. It's most effective when it's paired with those actions. For example, a leader might say, I've been feeling stretched thin. So I'm taking
Right.
a long weekend and I'm asking for support from others as I prioritize myself in this. And that models healthy boundaries and empowers the team members to do the same.
I love that. I think that was an excellent answer, and I agree with you. And I also believe, as I mentioned, that I think it's a good idea for leaders to be transparent. Outside of the suggestions that you provided on doing that and the benefits, I would say the biggest thing for me is just making sure that you're positive. I think as a leader, it's okay to admit, hey, I'm tired. I'm burnt out too, but I think it's also important to also add, but we're in this together. I'm here for you, and just to be positive, because I've seen some leaders admit to being tired in a negative way, like, I'm tired too, I'm over this, instead of, a positive way to say the same thing is, just being transparent. I'm a little exhausted too, or I'm tired as well, but I have my sleeves pulled up, and we're going to do whatever it takes to support the business. And I'm also going to make sure to support you all until we get proper staffing or whatever the case it may be. But I really think it's important for leaders to remain positive, even when it's not a positive environment due to short staff. Next question is, if you're stepping into a team that's been through the ringer, turnover, bad leadership, low morale, where do you start in rebuilding this type of team's trust?
Start by listening. Ask how people have been impacted, validate their experiences, then co create a few small wins to rebuild that trust within the team. It's not about giving speeches or anything like that, gaslighting people,
Yeah,
delivering all these words that don't have any action behind them. It's about consistent follow through and showing that you're different from what they've experienced. One of the clearest signs about burnout is that emotional withdrawal again. So we need to bring that emotion back into the workplace, into the culture, and then partner with them. This is a partnership. Like I might
right,
be the leader in this
right,
partnership, but we're all
right.
working towards the same goal. So we need to act as partners within this.
I agree. Partnership is so important, and sometimes missed,
Yeah.
because as a leader, you look at yourself as the leader, but in reality, you should look at your team as just your partners. If you have 20 team members, okay, you got 20 partners. And so
Yes.
I agree. I know that every team that I lead, I try to have like I'm Batman, you're Robin type of culture, because I know that as a leader, I'm nothing without my team. And then I think that you made a good point with listening. If a person is going through that type of environment and you take over a new team, they're going to have a lot to say. So being available, not being too busy, and taking time to listen to your team members, I think is very important. And then you also mentioned, co-actions, or coming up with ideas that you can act upon quickly. There are some things that team members may suggest that may take a few months or a year to implement. But I
That's
believe when you take over a new team and they give you a list of things that they would like to see changed, I think that you should start with implementing the things, or implementing the suggestions that you can create quickly within, I would say, 90 days or less. So
Mhm.
I think that you made some good points, and hopefully other leaders will find this information valuable, because I've been a leader for over 10 years, and anytime I've taken over a team that has appeared to be stressed, that is the first thing I do. I listen, and then I implement the things that can be implemented within 90 days or less, because that team member is like, wow, this person listened. Wow, this person made some changes.
Yep.
So I agree with you. I definitely agree. Next question. What's the line between being an engaged leader and being a micromanager when your team is stressed?
Um, so I would say being engaged means being available, empathetic, helpful. Again, that we are in this together type of morale builds that environment of partnership, that trust, and just helps propel the team forward. So they're not feeling that it's an us versus them or me versus you. It's the we're in this. How can we tackle the problems or the workplace issues or anything that might come up? How can we make our jobs better? How can we provide for the clients that we're serving? And then micromanagement can feel a bit suffocating at times, especially when a team is already fragile. You want to check in, not check up. As how
Yeah,
can I support you today? Instead of, did you finish that yet? Did you meet that deadline? What were you
right,
doing that it didn't get done?
right,
Because we're all humans. We all have things outside of work going on. So just
right,
really checking in on the person and not as an employee. How can I help you? How can I support you? How can I be there for you? I think really will make that difference in the
right.
workplace.
Agreed. I love that. How can I check you? Do you have any immediate needs I can support you with? Not, hey, I know that I assigned this task to you a week ago and I told you you had until the end of the month to complete it. And I've
Mhm.
been checking in with you every other day to see where you are.
Yeah.
This is when we just have to really trust our employees to know that I gave them a task and they're going to do it. Unless it's an employee, of course, that shows you they need a little bit of extra engagement because some employees do. But I
Right.
love how you said, micromanaging can be a little bit just overwhelming in general. It's just like, what do you want? I'm doing my job.
Yes.
So I get that. That's true. So
And
I
it
hope
just feels like there's no trust, right? If someone's
right.
always do this, did you do that? Did you do it? Let me do it. Like I'm trying to do
Yeah,
what you
let me
asked.
do my job.
Exactly. Like I'm not a child. I don't need you asking me every 10 seconds that I clean my room. Like I got it.
Right. Exactly. And and most of us we're working as an adult. And you
Yes.
just mentioned, I don't want to feel like a child. So as leaders, we have to make sure that remember that micromanaging can make adult employees feel like children. And that's the last thing that we want to make someone feel because it's kind of like, belittling in a sense. Like
Absolutely.
you're an
Absolutely.
adult, but I'm treating you like a child. So I'm ultimately belittling you.
Exactly. For sure.
All right. I love that. Can you name a leadership behavior that looks helpful but actually adds to the team's stress?
Um, let's definitely toxic positivity. So let's talk about that phrase a
What's
little
that?
bit. So this an example would be telling people just stay positive or be thankful when they're struggling, and that's invalidating. Just thankful that you have a job. Just stay positive. Why are you being so negative all the time? That's dehumanizing. That's invalidating, and it just feels again belittling. Like I'm a child. No, I need validation from you as a leader. So it's that toxic positivity. So it's taking that something positive and you're kind of like turning it around into something toxic. So it's almost like that toxic relationship, right? Like they're
Yeah,
gaslighting you a little bit. So it's kind of like
exactly. Like, I know you're tired. I know that you worked 12 hours today, yet I'm
yeah,
just telling you, be grateful that you even have a job. You know how the economy
grateful,
is.
be
So I
grateful.
get it. It's dismissing the exhaustion,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
not being one with the exhaustion. Like, I know you're tired. How can I give you a break? How can I show up for you? So I get that. Very,
Yeah.
very good point. And
Mhm.
so looks like we've come to our last question. And so, okay, last one. And I want you to go there. Please go there. What's your unapologetic advice to leaders managing this kind of chaos? And what would you say directly to the employees just trying to make it through their work week? What would you say?
Mhm. To leaders, I would say stop glamorizing resilience. Your team shouldn't have to break themselves to keep things running. Lead with humanity, communicate clearly, follow through on what you say. Don't make people feel that coming to work is the chore. You should want to come to work and feel that you are at a place where you're making a difference, you're doing a good job, you experience that team cohesiveness, you have support. You don't want to create an environment where people wake up in the morning and they are mad they have to go to work because of the
Right.
environment, and
Right.
it's bigger than a lot of people don't want to work. Like, let's be
That's
honest, but it's
true.
bigger than
That's
just not wanting to work. It's not wanting to be there to work at this
right.
place. So then you
Right.
lose people, and now you're even more burdened with being short staffed, and the staff that are there are even more burdened and more overworked and more stressed. And then to the employees, I would say protect your peace, advocate for yourself, find your allies. Remember that burnout isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic reflection of a larger issue. And you deserve support, not silence, when your woes are expressed, when your grievances are expressed, when your issues are expressed. You deserve someone, a leader that will take that into consideration, help you if they can, at least lead you to someone that might have some solutions for you, give you advice, or just even be like a listening ear for you to talk to about things and talk to through situations, to make the
Right.
environment better instead of being dismissive or gaslighting or providing toxic positivity as the answer and not being a supportive person.
I love that. You touched on a lot of things that a leader can do and an employee can do to get through the work week. I would like to add on that, especially just being in leadership for so long. How I would deal with that type of chaos is just really listening to your employees and then also making sure that they feel developed. A lot of employees, it's one thing to feel burnt out and feel like you're being burnt out in vain. I'm just coming to work every day and I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
There's one thing to feel an exhaustion, but then feel completed at the end of the day. Like, hey, even though I was at work all day, I had my leader there and my leader, encouraged me. My leader supported me and my leader also developed me. I learned something new. I ended this week on a Friday and thought to myself, you know what? I feel better. I developed this. So I learned this from my leader or from my peers. So I would say that in those type of environment, make sure that these people are still being developed because people come back when they feel like they're developed. Who doesn't want to feel developed? Because when you're developed, you know that you can get to different places in your career versus when you're not.
For
And
sure.
then I would say for the employees, just to remain, positive, as you have mentioned. I think a lot of times if we keep a negative mindset, we'll stay in the negative place. But if we try to be positive and as an employee, what can you do to get another job if you need to get another job? Does that look like taking, going back to school? Does that look like getting a mentor if you don't have one? Does that look like maybe enhancing your LinkedIn page, your resume, just different things that you can do to where you feel like, hey, I know I'm unhappy right now, but I'm still building myself to get to another level to where once I get to that next level, what I'm going through right now would just be like a thing in the past. So just making sure that employees know that what you're going through can be temporary, but you have to work hard to get to the next level
For
and build
sure.
relationships. I think you mentioned building relationship, having those allies, because
Yeah.
when you build great relationships with people and connections, you may be able to navigate into another industry just by knowing different people as well. So protecting your brand is important, whether you're happy or not. I think every adult in the workplace should protect their brand. And what I mean by protecting their brand is like just your attitude, making sure you have a good attitude because sometimes we can have a bad attitude and we stay in the same place just because our attitude didn't lead us to different opportunities.
For
So
sure.
this was definitely good. We're always on one accord on what we think about needs to be done in the workplace. That's why I have you on, as my co-host now. And so I appreciate you answering those questions today. And so I won't take a lot of your time. I know that you have just been recently up all night completing papers as you got your doctorate degree, I believe, last week or the week before,
Yes.
right? So
Yep.
I know last week, right? So I won't keep you long. The whole objective of this interview was just for everyone to meet Dr. G, and then also for them to know what to expect in the future. And so, Dr. Gabrielle, thank you for bringing all the truth and tools today. Welcome
Thank
officially to Workplace Woes. And to our
you.
listeners, this is just the beginning. We're going deeper every week into what's really happening in your workplace and how you can lead or survive it with your sanity intact. And to everyone, please don't forget to follow our Facebook page, Workplace Woes Facebook page. And we also have a YouTube page as well, so you can be abreast of all of our interviews that we come out in the future. And so I don't have anything else. Gabrielle, any last words you like to say to
Yeah.
our viewers?
Yeah, again, thank you. I'm excited to begin this journey. I'm excited to, alleviate some of these issues in the workplace and give advice and tips that are helpful to alleviate some of these workplace woes. And I'm excited what we can do in the future.
Thanks for joining, and cheers to Workplace Woes Podcast. And
Yeah,
cheers to my new co host, Gabrielle. You take
yeah.
care. All
Bye.
righty. Bye.